failure. There are moments in human history when the weight of our choices becomes unbearable, when the brilliance of our intellect dances dangerously close to the edge of catastrophe. The atomic bomb is one of those moments. To understand the atomic bomb is to confront the shadow of human capability. It's not just a device of destruction. It is a mirror held up to our collective soul, reflection of our genius, our fear, and our desperate desire for power in a world often ruled by conflict. The atomic bomb begins with the smallest particles in the universe, atoms. At the heart of every atom lies a nucleus, a tightly bound center made of protons and neutrons. For most of human history, this nucleus seemed untouchable, a world too small and stable to ever disturb. But in the early 20th century, a scientist discovered something that changed everything. If you split the nucleus of certain atoms, a colossal amount of energy is released. This process is called nuclear fission. Picture this: uranium-235 or plutonium-239, two rare isotopes with unstable nuclei, are carefully assembled inside a device. Failure are isolated and kept apart because if they come together too soon, the reaction will begin prematurely. These atoms are not dangerous yet, but they are holding secrets that, once unlocked, cannot be returned to silence. When the moment comes, a carefully designed system forces these unstable atoms to collide. Neutrons slam into their nuclei and the atoms split. And in that split, a blinding flash of energy, a release so powerful it dwarfs the sun in that instant. But it's not just one atom. No, that would not be enough. What makes the atomic bomb terrifying is the chain reaction. Each time a uranium or plutonium atom splits, it releases more neutrons. These neutrons then strike more atoms, causing them to split too. And so it continues again and again, in a fraction of a second. Within the blink of an eye, millions of atoms are shattered. And the energy, it comes not as a whisper, but as a scream, shockwave, a fireball, a sudden obliteration of everything in its path. Think of the heat from a summer sun on your skin. Now imagine that heat multiplied hundreds of thousands of times. That is what the atomic bomb releases in a heartbeat. Temperatures reach millions of degrees Celsius, hotter than the core of the Earth. Buildings vanish. Landscapes are scorched. Lives are erased. But perhaps the most haunting part isn't just the blast. It's what lingers. The radiation, an invisible poison, seeps into the earth, the air, and the water. It stays long after the silence returns, long after the headlines fade. It lingers in the cells of children not yet born. It whispers in the bodies of survivors. It tells us that power, once used, never disappears. It transforms. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945 held the power of 15,000 tons of TNT. It destroyed a city and shook the soul of the world. The suffering it unleashed is not just a chapter in a textbook. It is a wound etched into generations, a scar that teaches us, warns us, pleads with us to choose differently. The atomic bomb does not exist in isolation. It is the child of a world at war, of scientists torn between discovery and destruction. Failure is just life, of leaders who believe that ending one horror justified beginning another. But we must ask, what does it say about us that we created such a thing? Yes, it took brilliance. Scientific minds working at the peak of human understanding. It took courage, people confronting the unknown. But it also took fear, pride, desperation, and the willingness to trade peace for domination, even if only for a moment. This is where we find the lesson. This is where the story turns inward. Because while the atomic bomb is a tool of physics, its birth was emotional. It was born from our need to win, to be safe, to have control. And in that desire, we uncovered a force too great to wield without consequence. Now, decades later, the atomic bomb still sits silently in silos and submarines waiting. A presence that haunts diplomacy and threatens every conversation about war. It teaches us that intelligence without wisdom is dangerous. That discovery without compassion can lead to ruin. But there is hope, always, because just as we created the bomb, we also have the power to dismantle it. Not just physically, but spiritually. We can disarm the hatred that fuels war. We can diffuse the ignorance that breeds violence. We can split open our own assumptions and allow empathy to flood in like sunlight through a cracked wall. The atom gave us energy. It gave us the key to both destruction and progress. What we choose to do with that key is the real story. Let us not fear knowledge, but let us never worship it blindly. Let us celebrate human brilliance, but always pair it with humility. And let us remember always that true power is not in what we can destroy, but in what we can protect. The atomic bomb is a question, a challenge, a warning, and if we are wise enough, a turning point. If the atomic bomb was a whisper of devastation, then the hydrogen bomb is a thunderclap, a deafening declaration of just how far humanity is willing to go in its pursuit of dominance. To understand it, you must open not just your mind, but your heart. Because the hydrogen bomb isn't just a machine. It is a truth, a reflection of our greatest capacities and our deepest fears. At the center of it all is a lesson. When you think you've reached the limit of power, there is always more. And that more can either heal or harm, uplift or annihilate. The hydrogen bomb chose the latter. It begins with fusion. Where the atomic bomb ends, the hydrogen bomb begins. While fission, the splitting of atoms, powers an atomic explosion, fusion does the opposite. It brings atoms together. It sounds gentle, doesn't it? Fusion, a joining, a coming together. And yet, in the world of thermonuclear weapons, fusion is anything but gentle. It is the process that powers the sun, that keeps stars burning for billions of years. And when harnessed by human hands, it becomes the most powerful force we've ever unleashed. Hydrogen bomb is also called a thermonuclear bomb. Thermo meaning heat, nuclear meaning the nucleus of atoms. That's how it works. Using the intense heat generated by a fission explosion to trigger fusion. Let's walk through this together. Imagine a two-stage weapon. The first stage is a fission bomb, like the one dropped on Hiroshima. But this is only the beginning. That bomb explodes and creates temperatures of millions of degrees. And that heat ignites the second stage, the fusion fuel. That fuel is usually a form of hydrogen, like deuterium or tritium, light elements with extra neutrons. Under normal conditions, these atoms float through the air, harmless, invisible. But under the pressure and heat of a fission explosion, they slam into each other. They fuse. And in fusing, they release an energy that dwarfs even the might of fission. You see, fusion is efficient. 1 kilogram of fusion fuel can release many times more energy than the same amount of fission material. And this energy doesn't just come as heat. It comes as a new flood of neutrons, a chain reaction within a chain reaction, a storm that feeds itself. This is not science fiction. This is what humanity built and tested, a weapon so powerful that the first hydrogen bomb detonated in 1952, vaporized an entire island in the Pacific. It didn't just destroy buildings. It turned coral to vapor. It carved a crater in the ocean floor. It turned the sky into a warning. The explosion yielded over 10 megatons of TNT equivalent, hundreds of times stronger than the bombs dropped in World War II. It was not a new kind of weapon. It was a new category of existence. And yet, it was not the technology that terrified most. It was the message. Because the hydrogen bomb told the world something undeniable. There is no upper limit to destruction. If the atomic bomb could flatten a city, the hydrogen bomb could erase a continent. If the atomic bomb could end a war, the hydrogen bomb could end civilization. It was a moment of reckoning. But what does that mean for us? Today, in this very moment, what does it mean to live in a world where such weapons exist? It means we live with choices. We live with the knowledge that brilliance can be bent toward both beauty and terror. That love and fear are both capable of shaping policy. That silence and complicity are as dangerous as ignorance. Because the hydrogen bomb was not created in a vacuum. It was created in a lab, yes, but also in a world obsessed with supremacy, with one nation outdoing the other. It was created during a Cold War, in the heat of paranoia, in the chill of distrust. It was not just science, it was fear made visible, anxiety turned into equations, insecurity forged into steel and uranium and hydrogen. And we must ask, what are we forging today? Because technology doesn't stop. Knowledge does not retreat. And every breakthrough is a fork in the road. We can use fusion to power cities or to destroy them. We can light homes or extinguish entire generations. The hydrogen bomb is not just a weapon. It is a mirror. It shows us the consequence of forgetting compassion, of prioritizing might over meaning, of choosing fear over faith in each other, in diplomacy, in the sacredness of life. But still, even here, there is hope. Because if we have the power to destroy, we also have the power to choose peace, to disarm not just our weapons, but our hearts, to lay down the narratives of war and pick up the stories of unity. The hydrogen bomb is a teacher, a harsh one, yes, but one that asks the hardest, most urgent question of all. Now that you know, what will you do? We can keep building. We can keep threatening. We can keep standing at the edge of annihilation, or we can step back. We can recognize that true strength is not in how much damage we can cause, but in how much healing we can offer, in how much empathy we can grow, in how fiercely we can protect life, not end it. The hydrogen bomb taught us that we are capable of unimaginable things. Let us now prove that we are capable of unimaginable kindness, of wisdom, of restraint. Because the most powerful force in the universe is not in atoms or bombs. It is in choice, in compassion, in the courage to look into the face of fear and say, no more. Let this knowledge not harden us, but soften us. Let it open our eyes to what matters most, the beating heart of humanity, the breath of the earth, the innocence of a child who has never heard the word war. That is what we must protect. That is what we must cherish, not power, life.